Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we are talking about taking advice from hypocrites. So, this isn't really inspired by anything other than me thinking about this. There's no event that happened recently in my life that inspired this, but basically, when you are any age, I was going to say when you're young, but when you're any age, you are given advice by people who are older than you, your peers, your parents, your grandparents, your friends, your family, people. You're given advice. You're told, oh, you really should be doing this, or, you should be doing this, or why aren't you doing this? Or, man, if I was your age, I'd be doing this. And often that advice comes from people who did not follow that advice. They're kind of coming at it from a hypocritical point of view. They don't practice what they preach. They just preach and expect you to be perfect and do the right thing and all of that stuff. Now, sometimes these people are giving you advice based on what they didn't do because it didn't work out for them. And they're like, man, I wish I had done it this way. But sometimes they think that they have given you good advice because it worked out for them when, in fact, you looking at their life, you're like, why are you telling me this? You did the exact opposite. You didn't do this at all. Maybe you have like an uncle or something who doesn't have very good personal relationships and he's giving you dating advice. And you're just like, why are you giving me this advice? Like, you are the last person I would take advice from. And initially when I was thinking and writing some notes for this video, I was thinking like, yeah, you never want to like take advice from these people because they're hypocrites. They didn't follow this advice. But then I was thinking, sometimes their advice is actually good. Sometimes you have to kind of weigh it and take it with a grain of salt, because obviously if somebody is giving you advice that they never followed, you kind of have to wonder, why are you giving me this advice? And is this advice actually good, or am I going to end up like you? So it's kind of a double-edged sword, because it could be good advice, but it might not be. I think the thing you have to do with any kind of advice or wisdom is you have to weigh it in the context that it's being given to you. So, for example, if your grandfather is giving you advice about how to have a long-lasting marriage, you have to look at what his life was like, and if he has any relevant information. Has he been married for 60 years and has it been a really good marriage that's been constructive and beautiful, or has it been tumultuous, and has he been married 3 or 4 times? And another context you have to remember is that our society has changed so much over the last 100 years. And so even people a few years older than you giving you advice about a topic isn't going to be relevant. When I was in high school, cyberbullying had just started. People had just started getting Facebook. The idea of bullying somebody online and having to manage and survive high school online, that had just started. It was very, very early days. So if I tried to give advice to my younger cousins or some younger friends who are in high school, my advice wouldn't be relevant, because social media has become an all-encompassing thing, and it affects your schoolwork, it affects everything, your social standing. Whereas when I was growing up, it had just started and people really didn't have a good handle on it. So you have to remember that advice is always given in situ, in the moment, and it's relevant to the people that experienced it, but it might not be relevant to you nowadays, because our world changes so incredibly quickly, especially now with technology and society and politics and economy and all of this stuff. And so you really do have to judge every piece of advice you get with a grain of salt, because it's not going to be relevant in some ways. In some ways, it will be, because the human experience is universal. So certain things like managing relationships and the nuances of family dynamics, those things you could get advice from somebody from ancient Greece and it could be relevant. I remember reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and it's so interesting that a Roman emperor from 2000 years ago can give you advice on waking up in the morning and telling yourself you just got to get out of the covers. You know, he talks about like how nice it is when you wake up in the morning and you're like under the covers and it's so warm and you just don't want to get out of bed. That's so relevant even to now. You know, you just, oh, I don't want to get up. I don't want to have to start my day. So like certain things are universal and certain things aren't. And I feel like this whole video is going to be me basically being like, here's one piece of advice, but you can't follow it always, which I think is very relevant. I mean, that's what wisdom is. It's all about the context surrounding an individual or a situation. You cannot have this black and white mentality when it comes to anything in life, because there is always going to be gray and purple and pink and red and yellow, and you know, like the world is multipolar and it has so many different contexts and situations that you find yourself in. So going back to getting advice from hypocrites, you do have to manage it carefully, and you do have to, you know, think critically. You can't just take advice for what it is. You know, so much of the advice I remember growing up, like, don't get in cars with strangers. Now we have Uber. That's literally what you do. You know, carry a quarter in your pocket for a payphone in case of emergency. No. Teachers used to tell me that I wouldn't have a calculator in my pocket all the time. I do now. So much of the conventional wisdom that you get from people doesn't last. Society changes, we adapt, and you will never be able to use the knowledge of other people 100% of the time. It's not going to apply to your life. It's going to be different. Even what I'm saying now, like, it's all relative to the context I'm in right now in 2023, almost 2024. And so you really cannot, you can't pick and choose things willy-nilly. You have to very critically and carefully analyze the advice you're getting, where it's coming from, why it is being said to you, and whether or not you're going to introduce it into your life. So that's basically all I wanted to say. I hope you guys are having a beautiful day. The sun is rising. Be mindful. Love what you do. Do something that you love today, truly, that makes you happy. And as always, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.